The story of John F. Kennedy's assassination did not begin in Dallas, it began in Florida. In November 1963, the state was the center of the anti-Castro war, packed with Cuban exile fighters, mob bosses nursing grudges, and CIA operatives running secret wars out of Miami. When Kennedy came to Tampa and Miami just days before his death, the stage was already set. In Tampa, a Cuban exile was positioned as a ready-made patsy, his background showing both pro- and anti-Castro affiliations, much like Lee Harvey Oswald. In Miami, a taped prophecy laid out exactly how the president would be killed in chilling detail. Both events were real, both were largely covered up and glossed over. Kennedy's trip to Florida occurred just 4 days before the president would be assassinated in Dallas. Now, let's take a closer look at President Kennedy's final trip to Florida. On November 18, 1963, Kennedy rolled through Tampa in the longest motorcade of his presidency, nearly 20 miles of exposure, winding through neighborhoods controlled by organized crime and filled with Cuban exiles. Smiling, waving, he passed beneath windows and rooftops wide open to any marksman. To the public, it looked like a celebration. To those who knew the city's underworld, it was an open invitation. Behind the scenes, the FBI had already identified a suspicious figure. Gilberto Lopez, a Cuban exile tied to the Fair Play for Cuba Committee, was in Tampa the day before Kennedy's visit. This was the same pro-Castro group Lee Harvey Oswald used to establish his political cover in New Orleans. The timing was no coincidence. Within days of the motorcade, Lopez vanished. He crossed into Mexico, then boarded a Cubana Airlines flight to Havana, the only passenger on board. FBI files documented the trip, but no warning ever reached the Secret Service agents responsible for Kennedy's safety. Lopez fit the pattern too neatly to be dismissed. If Kennedy had been shot in Tampa, he was positioned to become the Oswald of that city, the patsy, ready to be blamed, his escape route conveniently leading to Castro's Cuba. Instead, the attempt never came. Lopez was allowed to disappear, and the Bureau buried the files. That same evening, Kennedy flew into Miami, the beating heart of the anti-Castro exile world and the CIA's largest station, known as JM Wave. Here, resentment toward the president ran hot. After the Cuban Missile Crisis, Kennedy had promised the Soviets that the United States would not invade Cuba. Camps were shut down. Raids were halted. Exiles who had bled for their cause felt betrayed. CIA officers, suddenly leashed, muttered that their president had gone soft on communism. In this volatile atmosphere, a chilling warning surfaced. Joseph Milteer, a right-wing extremist with ties to violent groups, was recorded by an FBI informant describing how Kennedy would be killed, a rifle shot from a tall building during a motorcade. A patsy arrested within hours. He describes an airtight plan already in the works. It was Dallas. The Secret Service in Miami took the warning seriously, but only for Miami. Kennedy's motorcade was canceled. He was flown in by helicopter. That night, under the glare of stadium lights at the Orange Bowl, there the crowd cheered as he declared that Cuba would one day be free. Around the field, agents stood tense, hands on their weapons. The most precise warning of the president's assassination was contained in Miami files while Kennedy flew on to Texas unaware. 4 days later, Milteer's prophecy was carried out almost word for word. Both Tampa and Miami later appeared in government records, but always in the margins acknowledged and then quickly minimized. The Warren Commission made only passing references to Florida. The Lopez lead was never investigated in depth, and Milteer's prophecy was downplayed as the ravings of an extremist. The Church Committee investigations revealed just how massive JM Wave had been and how deeply Florida was tied into the CIA's anti-Castro operations, but again, the Tampa and Miami threats were treated as background noise. The House Select Committee on Assassinations admitted more openly that Lopez was a person of interest and that Milteer's tape was a genuine warning. But the committee still stopped short of calling either an active plot, framing them instead as coincidences or intelligence lapses. Declassified FBI files show Lopez's escape to Havana was tracked in real time, yet no attempt was made to stop him. Milteer's tape sat in archives for years, evidence of a warning that was never acted on. The echoes of the Tampa motorcade and the Milteer prophecy could be heard on November 22, 1963. Investigations of the assassination acknowledged these events only in passing, reducing deliberate events into coincidences and stripping them of their meaning. The cheering crowds in Tampa, the stadium lights in Miami, they were backdrops for a presidency already in its last days. Dallas was simply the final act. I want to thank you for watching this episode of the Florida Files. Please like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. I'd like to hear what you think about Kennedy's trip to Florida back in November of 1963.